In this part, it will all start to come together a little bit. So right now we are going to create a terrain. Let's unhide it in the outline view here. So let's find the ground and click this eye icon here. And we can leave the ruins visible because we are going to need them a little bit. Select the ground and go into the edit mode. Now we'll need to extrude this down, so press E and drag down a little bit. Again, doesn't need to be precise, just something like this. And this is kind of a style I've developed over time, where I place all my designs on these rectangular diorama platforms. You don't need to do that. Of course, you can do much larger plane and make this part of a larger landscape, and then, I don't know, maybe create some other ruins and drag them around, duplicate some pillars, whatever you want basically. But I'm going to follow with this style where I create this rectangular diorama. Let's do that. And one good habit to have when you're extruding something from a plane and you go downwards, sometimes it messes up the normals. So let's check on that real quick. And if you go here to the overlays, there's a little arrow here, and if you click that, there's a bunch of options how you can set up your view. And right here at the bottom there are these normal icons, and I've talked about it a little bit in the first episode. So yeah, if we enable normals for faces here, we can see nothing, because what happens if we go to the wireframe, normals are turned inside. And that happened when we extruded the face down. We basically made upside down version of the box. So to correct this, you just need to select all and press Shift N to recalculate normals. And of course, you can find this option here in the mesh. So if you click mesh, normals, there's an option to recalculate normals outside. So, and the shortcut is Shift N, so let's press Shift N. And now if we go back to the solid view, you can see the normals are correctly pointing out of the faces. Okay, let's deactivate them. And let's create our terrain. Now I want to go to the front view, so let's press numpad 1, go to the wireframe view, let's select. Now since we have this bottom plane already selected from the extrusion, I want to hide it, so let's press H to hide it. And you know the reason from the previous episode, I don't want these vertices to be affected, and I don't want the whole geometry to be subdivided. I only want to subdivide the top part. And let's select all, click with the right mouse button to get this contextual menu and choose subdivide. And we can do this 4 times to get a nice geometry here. And right now we'll need to create the riverbed for the water underneath the tunnel and underneath the ruins. So let's go into the local view with the slash on the numpad. So let's press slash. And let's go to the face select. So press 3 to face select, and I want to select these 4 middle rows. So let's just drag a selection around those. Your selection should look exactly like this. Now we are going to extrude this down. So let's press E and extrude down. So maybe something like this will be enough. Okay, and right now I want you to delete these faces. We won't need them. So click here on the first face, hold Control and click on the last one. Now release Control. Let's hold Shift to select the new one and release the Shift, and now hold Control and click this one. Press X and choose faces. Now I want you to unhide the geometry, but first there are some edges here, some leftovers from the geometry. So let's press 2 to edge select and select this edge. Hold Control, click in the end. Now hold Shift, click here, Control and click here. So basically the same thing as you did for the faces. Now press X and choose edges. Now I want you to unhide the rest of the geometry. So let's press Alt H. And you see there is a hole on the both sides, and that's a good thing. We just want to fill this geometry with N-Gon. So with the edge select active, we can just alt click here to create the loop and press F to cover it with the face. And the same on the other side, so alt click here, press F to fill the loop, and we have a base for our terrain. Now let's look from the front, so let's press 1 on the numpad, go into the wireframe, Z and mouse to the left, enable vertex select with 1, select these bottom vertices, and let's press H to hide them again. So we now have only the top of the terrain visible again. And let's go back to the solid, so hold Z and go right, tab out of the edit mode, and let's just enable the ruins here, or rather let's go out of the local view, which we are still in, if you remember. So let's press slash on the numpad so the ruins become visible again. And right here you can see how the riverbed fits are seen, and there is a slight misalignment, but don't worry about that, we will fix that right away. So let's tab into the edit mode, and we'll need to select these edges and move them around a little bit. So yeah, let's just enable face select with 3, select this face here, rotate the scene around, hold Control and click here, and let's just press G, then X, and move it here a little bit more. Something like this will be enough, because even if you have these overlaps, we'll fix those later when we are shaping the terrain. So right now I think this works quite alright, and we can move to shaping of the terrain itself. So let's enable the proportional editing by pressing O and go to the vertex select, press 1, and right now we can just decide where we want some little bumps on the terrain and how we want to shape it basically. So yeah, let's just click some words, press G then Z, and really adjust the proportional fall off, make it larger and make these larger bumps. This is how I always start some terrains, where I first define the overall shape by these large bumps and hills and stuff, and then I go in and modify the details and shape the details. So let's press G, Z, maybe we can do some larger bump here, maybe here too a little bit. Here we can go really larger, and we can make some bump here basically. Okay, that's for the basic shape of the terrain, and now you guessed it right, we are going to enable the random fall off on the proportional editing and click some words press G, Z, and really make some little details so the terrain is not uniform. So just click some vertices, press G, then Z, and move them up a little bit with a really large fall off. And we can do that here as well. And for the riverbed, again, this is completely up to you how you shape your terrain. And I think this will be okay. And right now we can create a little bit of zigzag edge here where the river goes. So yeah, select the verts, press G, then X, and drag some of those out. And maybe you don't need that much of a fall off right here, so you can basically always work with the fall off size to get the desired results. And here I'm always dragging on the x-axis with the random fall off. And right now we can switch this to the smooth fall off, so click here and change to smooth. And let's click this first vertex right here, and we can rotate the scene, and by holding Control click this one here. And I want to create a slope here, so let's press G, then X, but make the fall off really smaller. Yeah, and make a little bit of a slope. And we can do the same thing here on the other side, so let's just click, rotate the scene, hold Control, click again to select the line of vertices, and press G, then X, and create a slope. And if you feel that this here is maybe too much, you can always go and modify that a little bit. Okay, so this will be the base of our terrain, and one last thing to do is to triangulate the faces, because I think when you tab out right now, you can see these faces are rectangular, and I think the triangular faces look much better on the terrain or larger surfaces like water, so I always triangulate them. Let's step back right in, select all, and since we know the shortcut already, we can press Ctrl T to triangulate. Now tab out of the edit mode, and our terrain is ready, and we can move on to the scene layout.